So my name is Koi Fan. I'm a 32-year-old art director from Brooklyn, New York. And I made the decision to come to Nimea Kaya with my wife Patty. We just got married on January 29th, 2018, and we've decided to take a sabbatical. And one of the most important things we wanted to do for ourselves in the first year of our marriage is to go back and kind of fix and heal a lot of the wounds that we had prior to meeting. And then also, you know, the things, every relationship, there's always an even flow, and so a lot of it was coming to help heal the things and really learn and be honest with ourselves to understand, like, you know, what are the things we need to work on and how can Mother Ayahuasca help us along the way. And that's kind of what brought us to Nimea Kaya. And I think in the beginning I was definitely scared. It was my first ayahuasca experience, and I hadn't done a tremendous amount of research. I've definitely heard through a series of friends, you know, how powerful the medicine can be, and I also know that, you know, with every bit of kind of sacred truth, there is always miscued information. So I made it a goal upon myself to really dive in deep and learn about what I was getting myself into instead of just taking someone else's word for it. And I think that was one of the big lessons that I've learned, especially meeting people here. And everything in life, it's always a sacred journey, and only you can make the decision to dig in and learn about what will happen and what the intentions you bring in, because that's going to prepare you for your ayahuasca experience. So that's kind of like how I came into it, and I started reading a couple books, and that kind of prepared my mind for it. And I always went into the intention with having the idea of surrender, and I always knew that there was going to be a big battle between the ego and then your heart. So that was kind of like the expectations or non-expectations that I had coming into it. And for me, I think I had a very different childhood. You know, I grew up as a first-generation American. My parents are from Vietnam, and I've had a lot of almost social disconnect from, you know, growing up in an predominantly white culture and being a slightly different ethnicity. You know, you don't necessarily always feel at home, and that's something I think I've struggled with for probably the first, 15 years of my life, and also being pretty short. I'm about 5'3" on a good day, and just learning how to be comfortable in your own skin was like one of the things that I think I've suppressed in all those memories. And obviously I'm 32 now, and I've learned to really grow into my skin and learn who I am over the last 5-6 years. But I think coming here and having the 4 ayahuasca ceremonies was so important, because the lessons that I gained out of it throughout all 4, the first lesson was like dissemination of the ego, and to understand how to work and cope with your ego, because it's ultimately just a partner throughout your whole journey. It's not your it's not your creator, it's not your enemy. It's something that's there, that's conscious, and it's just an advisor, honestly. It's an advisor of everything you do, and that's something that I've wanted to come here to focus on and learn about. And, you know, I've always had kind of a chip on my shoulder, especially just kind of with my old childhood, and, like, you know, always feeling like I was never good enough, and that would always push me even further. And I think coming here, Mother Ayahuasca just showed me that, like, you don't have to feel like you're never good enough. Like, the power of life is going to give you all kinds of things, but it's ultimately your decision on how you react to it. There's an amazing book, Man's Search for Meaning, that really embodies this understanding. So I think a lot of the first ceremony was about first and second was about learning how to understand my past and learning about how I was able to form this ego that guided me in a lot of times, but also kind of created a slightly materialistic framework for me to live and operate in, and feel like I needed to do things to prove this persona that I had, especially living in New York and being an art director and photographer. There's certain things that you feel like you have to do, and that was one of the biggest things that I wanted to just kind of face and understand. Why is this even, like, where does this even come from? And the first 2 days, 2 ceremonies, was about the depth of why I even needed that. I had some really strong purges, especially in the second ceremony. I'm a very extroverted person, and I felt her just building up inside of me. Every time I would take it about 30 minutes in, she would just prop me up on my mat in lotus position, and I would just close my eyes, and she would just show me things, not necessarily so visual, but very like instinctual and like very gut-based feelings. And I realized my ego was just in the backseat at that point. My mind was just like, okay, you take control, and really helped me understand what I was going through. And I had some really good purges. Some people like fear the purge, but I kind of feel like it's about feeling the purge, because it's like you really do feel that you are just getting rid of all the toxicity and all the past that comes out of you. And what's beautiful is that, coupled with the dieta, you know, the plants are already doing all the work for you. And when you're here, the food Nimea Kaya is incredible. So like your diet just feels so right for you. So that was the first 2 ceremonies for me, and I started to really feel everything in the third and the fourth. So for my third and fourth ceremony, I think that's when I realized the work has already been done physically, and now I needed to go spiritually and mentally. And part of why I think Nimea Kaya is different from all the other places is that when you fill out your application, you have to write a submission, understand even why you're even doing this. And I think that's so important to differentiate, you know, other ayahuasca healing centers, is that, you know, these guys aren't here for like the glitz and the glamour. Like, this is the real deal. And, you know, Jill and Casey and the shamans are here to help you and understand why you want to do this in the first place. So I think that put me in a headspace where I had to really think about what I was lacking. And for me, it's just been like an emptiness in spirituality. I've tried, you know, and I feel like I believe in meditation, I believe in yoga, and I believe in all these things, but I didn't necessarily make the full conscious effort because I didn't really have an awakening yet until now. And then that's what I felt in the third and the fourth ceremony. My third ceremony is when I saw God in the shamans. I'll never forget it. It was the male shaman, and he was glowing with like crazy laser neon lights coming out of him. There was like a portal ascending through his head, and to my right was my friend Nene, and to my left was my friend Mark. And Nene was wearing this all white outfit, and she's Finnish, so she looked like this white, like Medusa with like 6 arms, and she represented all femininity. And to my left was Mark. There was obviously a male, and he kind of represented all the male spirits, and I was in between, and they were struggling, like they were going through their ayahuasca, and it looks like they wanted to receive the power, but for some reason something was holding them back. And then Mother Ayahuasca asked me to just reach down and just hold the position and try to receive for these two. And then after that, I remember Nene was struggling, like she was very confused and just seemed lost. And in my mind, my ego was like, just leave her alone, to, you know, let her be. And I asked Mother Ayahuasca, I was like, what should I do at this point? And she's like, it's okay, just let her know you're there. And I reached over and I just touched on her leg and just held it and let her know that she was safe and she was with friends. And it calmed everything in her mind, and she was at peace after that. So ayahuasca works in ways that they are so profound, so deep in a way of vibrational levels that we could never imagine. So there's so much trust and faith in the medicine that, like, if you are willing and you are willing to surrender, it will show you so many things that your mind could never fathom. So that was my third, and my fourth was, they say that she knows how many ceremonies you're doing and she's aware of, how much you can handle. And my fourth ceremony was the most beautiful transformational one I've ever experienced. I went through every single emotion that I've experienced in life. Something I think that was really, really beautiful was that we're in a space that's shared with male and female energy, and I think Jill had a really, really important decision to make, to kind of have a little bit of yin and yang the last day and have the females on one side and the males on the other, so that we could tap in and connect on the male side to understand without distraction, like, who we were. And then all the females had the opportunity to share their energy and spirit, and it was truly felt in the room. There was moments where the Icaros wasn't going on, but what I saw was all of our ancestors were in the room with us. They were holding space with us and watching over us. And that night, I experienced all the pain I've had as a child, from all the little insecurities, being told you can't do this, you can't do that, learning the repercussions of making mistakes and, like, being okay with it. And one of the things I learned as well was, like, how important it is to have imagination and creativity, especially for our children. It's that, these kids under the age of, like, 5 or 6, they don't see color, they don't see skin color, they just see people and energies and auras. And it's so important to nurture that. And that was one of the big lessons that I want to share with my children one day, is to learn to just be yourself and tap into that creativity. And that was one of the big lessons I think Patty and I both received while we're here, was how we do want to raise our family in the future, and we're really excited about that. And then I realized that, like, a lot of life, if you just start to take it moment by moment, then you're never gonna get trapped in this hole of, I need to do this, I need to do that. If I don't do this, then this is gonna happen. Because what happens is, society tells you these preconceived ideas that you have to do this. This is like your career path. This is the perfect way to do X, Y, and Z because somebody else has done it that way. That doesn't necessarily mean it's your path. And I felt at that point, I went through all of the different emotions I felt as a male, like all the mistakes and times that I've hurt people. I went through those and I felt those emotions. And then I had a mental orgasm where I was like, just my whole body just like shook, and like my legs went up in the air, and like I feel like I had like a digital childbirth of some sorts. And then Mother Ayahuasca came in and just calmed my spirit. And then that's when she showed me all the feminine energy, how important it is to listen, how important it is to just tap in and be vulnerable and learn that it's okay to feel, it's okay to cry, it's okay to laugh, it's okay to have fun, it's okay to be devious, but in everything you do, just put the right intentions and find the balance, and you will learn to be your most truest self. And I think, the integration circles are some of the most important moments that I've ever had. I've cried multiple times in those, and seen people who have shared the most traumatic stories in their life, and you realize that you're all here, whether you've gone through crazy trauma or not, but you're all here to heal together. And that was the most rewarding, gratifying experience I've ever had, and I know it's something that I'm going to hold on to for the rest of my life. And in addition to the just being here for my own personal healing, you realize that you are now part of somebody else's healing process, and you are part of a collective consciousness to help them learn how to cope and start to heal all the wounds and all the trauma that's happened in their life, and hopefully they can take upon that to show other people the way, you know. And like, I'll just leave it with the Gandhi quote, like, be the change you want to see in the world, because it's the truest thing that you could ever be. So thank you guys.